Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on plug and play analysis panels for all of your measurement tasks. Just before we get going, just going to check that my sound is okay. So if you can hear me fine, if there are no echoes, please let me know in the chat section, which you'll see on the right-hand side. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes for that. Sounds good, perfect. Thanks for that, Matt. Brilliant, guys. Well, thank you so much for attending. It's been probably 4-5 months since we last did a webinar, since I last did a webinar. It's great to see so many of you in the chat room today. And look, we're really excited to be presenting our analytical panel solutions. We've been working on these for 2-3 years now, and probably in the last 6 months we've had lots of success. I'm excited to share those case studies with you and see how these analytical panel solutions can really help your projects in the future. So just before we start, a bit of housekeeping. For those of you who've attended our webinar before, you're pretty familiar with this GoToWebinar interface. So what you'll see on your screen is what you can see at the moment. So at the top, there'll be a webcam, and hopefully you can see me. If not, don't worry about it. On the right-hand side, you'll see a dashboard. In that dashboard, there's an option to download some handouts. So we'll have the presentation slides. We also have a brochure for our analytical panels. That's all in there. If you miss that download at any point during this webinar, don't worry. We're going to send you all an email with a recording to this webinar and access to those handouts too as well. Brilliant. Okay, so let's get into it. So your presenters today are firstly myself. My name is Luke. I am the Industry Manager for Water and Wastewater at Endress+Hauser Australia. So I work nationally with all of our sales teams to help deliver products and solutions to you, our customers. I'm also the Analytical Product Manager for Endress+Hauser too, so I wear 2 hats in the organisation. We also have Kasav here as well. Kasav, would you like to do a brief introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I'm Kasav. I'm the Solution Application Specialist here in Endress+Hauser Australia. I'm a national resource, and I put together solutions on analytical panels.
Sensational. So Kasav's going to come back at the end and help you all with some of your technical questions too. So brilliant. Thanks, Kasav. So on the agenda today, for those of you who are not familiar with our analytical portfolio, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to that, some of our technologies such as maximise, the range of probes and analyzers we're able to offer. We're then going to go through panel use cases, both in the water and wastewater industries. We're going to have a look at a list of benefits, how we can really help you deliver your projects more efficiently and more reliably with these panel solutions. I'm going to give you an example of our standard panels. You may have seen these in one of the brochures which we released back in February. So we've got quite a few standard panel solutions which I'll talk to you about. Then the really interesting part, we're going to go through some real customer examples for projects where we supplied hundreds of panels to small projects where we supplied only 1 or 2 panels. Then I'm going to show you how you can configure panels yourself using the online configuration tool. I'll give you a brief example of that. And then Kasav will join us at the end of the presentation, and from there we'll take any of your questions. Just on the questions, if you do have any throughout the presentation, use the questions box on the right-hand side in your little dashboard, and I'll get to all of those at the end of the presentation. So firstly, let's talk to you about our analytical portfolio. We've got an example of one of our probes here. It's all based off something called maximise technology. But for any of you who have used our analytical probes in the last 10 years, you'll be very familiar with this technology. This is still unique in the marketplace, and what it is it gives you a digital rather than an analog signal in your probes. What that means is that you can send loads more information over your probes, calibration dates, calibration cycles, maintenance intervals, diagnostics information. All of that information you can now supply on these digital probes. The most unique part of it is this inductive coupling. So I've got a probe here. We've got a small pH probe which we use on many of our panels. Then here's our maximise cable. This is the unique part of our technology, this inductive coupling that you see here. What's the benefits of that? Well, there's no metallic contacts, so they're resistant to submersion, resistant to dust or to heat or to humidity. Massive advantages when you're installing these solutions way out in the middle of New South Wales, for example, where temperatures are 40, 45 degrees, or it can get below zero in winter, which we're coming towards now. Also, we've got bidirectional data transmission, and calibration data is stored in these probes. So how does that help you? Let's imagine we've got a water treatment plant and we've got 6 or 7 different panels installed there, and we want to calibrate all of our pH probes, say, after every 3 months. Rather than doing that at a measurement point where it could be hot, it could be windy, it could be cold even as well, and also it takes a lot more time. With MemSense, you can do all of that in the laboratory. So you calibrate your probes in nice laboratory clean conditions. You take all 7 of them out into the field. You swap your old probes with your new probes. The transmitter picks up the probe, picks up the type, the serial number, when it's been calibrated. Your measurement point's back and running in what, 15, 20 seconds? Then you take all of your old probes back to the laboratory, do the calibration, store those in KTL, ready for the next time you do your calibration, say 3 to 6 months later. So massive advantages with MemSense technology, still unique in the marketplace. It's been around for 10 years now. And what we are doing, and you'll start to see a lot more information about this very soon, is that we're releasing something called MemSense 2.0. So this is really us getting more into the IoT type market space. So with MemSense 2.0, you can store even more information on these probes. We also have a whole suite of updated probes, which have longer calibration type cycles, less maintenance, all of these benefits. So stay tuned for that. In around May, June time, you'll probably see another webinar from me where I'll present this MemSense technology. So what probes and solutions do we offer with MemSense? Well, we cover everything, typically for water and wastewater, whether it's pH, ORP, salinity, DO, disinfection, stability, even some of these combined electrodes, ISE type electrodes, all work off MemSense technology, and they talk to the same transmitter. So again, any of you who have our probes installed, you would have seen this blue transmitter out in the field. These transmitters are like MemSense, have been around for 10 years, but we've really built on the technology here. So we started with 2 channels, then we got 4, 6. Now you can even install 8 channels with the newest versions. You've got Profinet, Ethernet, you've got integrated web service as standard as well. So you're able to log into these transmitters remotely. And they also have something called heartbeat technology, which is our advanced diagnostics and verification tool. So the beauty of this transmitter is that if you can operate, say, a nitrate optical probe with that menu structure, you can also calibrate your pH probe. So very, very simple, intuitive menu structure. We also have a series of complex, what we term as complex analyzers. So these are looking at your nutrients such as ammonium, orthophosphate, total phosphate, TOC, COD, nitrite, aluminium, iron, chromate. We've done some installs of that quite recently, as well as your silicates, orthophosphate. And in probably 3 months' time, we'll have a total nitrogen analyzer to add to this range as well. So we're really covering near enough a full suite of analytical measurements for your water and wastewater treatment plant. So that's enough on the basic technologies and some of the basics around our analytical portfolio. So now I'm going to talk to you about panel solutions. Now, panel solutions, if you don't know, is any probe, assembly with piping and transmitter with cabling installed onto a single panel. So let's say, for example, you're at the effluent of a water treatment plant and you want to monitor your final disinfection point. That analyzer will typically be installed on a panel. So there's tons of different areas you can install these panels, both from wastewater networks and treatment plants and water networks and treatment plants. So let's just go through a couple here. Typical application would be an industrial site. Let's say you have your industrial wastewater management team. They want to see exactly what your customers are releasing into the sewer. So you can install a panel there to monitor parameters such as COD, TOC, pH, and conductivity. There's also installs throughout your wastewater treatment plant. Another very common application is at the effluent. So the effluent, particularly at the bigger plants, we want to monitor ammonium, turbidity, pH, disinfection, all on the same panel. This is a classic use case for a panel solution. Similar, you can look at your water networks and your water treatment plants. Let's say we want to have a look at the water quality or the river quality coming into your water treatment plant. We can install a panel to look at different parameters there. Let's also say on the effluent, very similar to a wastewater treatment plant, Some of the key water quality monitoring parameters you'd like to look at there may include turbidity, pH, disinfection, ORP. In some cases, of course, a panel solution is the perfect application there. There are areas where you don't want to put a panel solution. They're really dirty areas. Let's look at the pre-treatment zone for wastewater, biological treatment zones. Don't go for a panel there, go for an immersion type assembly. So we've looked at the analytical portfolio. We've looked at the various installation locations for panel solutions across water networks, wastewater networks. Now let's go to a very, very typical scenario. So let's imagine, I'm imagining in a room today, we've probably got some commissioning engineers, some project engineers, some project managers, some end users. We've probably got a whole suite of professionals in the water industry. This is a very typical scenario. So let's say we've got a large wastewater treatment plant construction project happening. You've had, over a period of months, delivery of all of your valves, your fittings, your piping in multiple different shipping containers, typically installed in some area of your plant. Now, your job as a project manager or a commissioning engineer is to find where are all my analyzers. Now, we've seen this on many projects. I've been to projects like this. Your analyzers are normally all over the place. Let's say in your first container, shipping container, you've got your flow meters, your pressure instruments, your analysis transmitters, so those liquid line transmitters I showed you on the previous slide. In the second container, you've got level instruments, radars, ultrasonics, conductive type instruments, more pressure instruments, and then you've got your probes and your cables in a whole series of boxes, probably somewhere around the back of your container. Then we've got the third container. So the third container, you're going to have some piping, some fittings, some adapters, some valves, and finally, these are where all of your assemblies are. So the assemblies are where your probes are installed to measure your water quality. That's an awful situation to be in. How long is it going to take you to figure out where all of my transmitters, probes, cables, assemblies all are, and then somehow install all of these on a panel? You've got to figure out whether you're missing any cables or assemblies. I'm not saying we're going to give you missing cables or assemblies, but it's very common that not everything is supplied in a single project. You've got to figure out by looking through all of the operating instructions, what are my pressure and flow limits, both for the probes and for the assemblies as well. You know, if my pressure is too high going in, we're going to have leaks all over the place, which could damage other instruments too. Also, conversely to that, if your flow is too low, you might not get the reliability of your measurement probe. You're probably going to be missing lots of fittings and connections. So once you've somehow found your transmitters, your probes, your cables, your assemblies, and put them all into an area or a system that you understand, then how on earth am I going to connect all of these assemblies together? You're probably missing all of these fittings and connections as well. All of this combined together is going to take you lots and lots of time. Now, in projects, particularly those projects that are very, very time constrained, time is money. And also, in addition to that, if you somehow find all of these in connections and fittings, you've got to trust that the way that you're installing them is as per the vendor's operating instructions. Because if you don't, in the worst case, you can get very poor reliability of your instruments, and that is going to pass on to the end user or the operator, who then goes and looks after the plant, maybe in 1 or 2 years' time. So we can take all of these troubles away from you by providing you with prefabricated plug-and-play type panel solutions. So let's go through some of the benefits of these solutions. The biggest one, and in my opinion, the one that's going to save you the most time, is that these panel solutions are plug-and-play. So all you have to do as an operator, as a commissioning engineer, as a project manager or process engineer, whoever's installing these instruments, is plug in the inlet where your flow is going to go, the outlet where your flow is going to go to a drain, the power and the communications, and that's it, you're done. Your panel is ready to go. So how much time is that going to save you over hunting and searching through 3, 4, 5 different shipping containers? In addition to that, we placed a massive emphasis upon space-saving design of these panels. Even though your water quality instruments are probably the most important instruments you're going to install in the plant, because they're going to define whether you're under or over your limits. In the worst case, you don't really have any space. You're given a dosing room and they're saying install that in 1.5 meters of space. Normally you think there's no chance of doing that. With these panel solutions, they're very, very compact, so you can install them in those areas. They're also very, very modular. You can kind of see this in the image behind. So what I mean by modular is that we place an emphasis on making these panels roughly the same dimensions. So let's say at the start of your projects, you wanted a low turbidity measurement, and then later on, you want to add a disinfection module. We can give you a panel roughly the same footprint as your low turbidity panel, so you install it right next to it, just like a jigsaw. They're repeatable. So what I mean by that is we can supply 1, 2, 3 panels for very small monitoring projects, or we can supply hundreds, 200, 300 panels for really large projects. We give you single part numbers to spec these panels for small or large projects. So they're very, very easy for you to include in your projects. Seamless integration, I mean, that's a given. These transmitters, the liquid line transmitters, are available with every type of communication. Most of them, so Ethernet, Profinet, Profibus, 4 to 20 HART, whatever you like, we can supply with. Multi-parameter, very, very important. We can supply these with up to 8 measurement parameters. In fact, we've done even more than that. We've done 9, 10, 11 measurement parameters in single panel solutions. Fully traceable documentation. So for any engineers that are in the room today, or any project managers, you know that documentation is very, very important during the handover stage of your project. We supply everything with these panels. So we supply the calibration, the factory-approved testing, site-approved testing, if that's what you need as well. We give you all of that documentation. You can use that in the handover to your customer. Another great point as well is on these panels, we actually have a small QR code. So with your mobile phone, you can walk up to the instrument, scan the QR code. You have all of that documentation available even on your phone. You send that straight back to your email, send that to your projects team, you have the documentation. Also beneficial for your operators at the end, they can scan the QR code and have a look at all of the operating instructions straight from their phone. And just to finish with, they're all supplied with Heartbeat technology, which is our advanced probe diagnostics and verification tool. So tons of different benefits to these panel solutions here. So let's go through some examples. For those of you who've seen our brochure, and you can pick it up in the handout section in your dashboard on the right hand side, we've put together a number of standard panel solutions. Now we feel this covers the majority of applications in the water and wastewater market in Australia, but of course we can customize solutions to whatever you want. So let's have a look at the panel solution. Very, very common insulation, free chlorine and pH to measure disinfection. You can see your transmitter here, your probes and your assembly, inlet, outlet, and a small sampling port here to do your calibrations. Then we've got this combined solution. We actually have one of these, or a couple of these in Australia, and a demo unit, which for those of you who are attending the Waiora event in June, you'll be able to see this. This is a very compact solution, great for your potable water distribution networks. Here we can measure 4 parameters in one go: pH, ORP, conductivity, and turbidity, all in a single small panel. Then we've got another really common application. Let's imagine you've got the outlet of your filters in a water treatment plant. You need to measure turbidity down to 0.5, 0.2, even down to 0.1 NTU. We've got a full solution for that. So you have your bubble trap here to avoid bubbles and to make sure you have an accurate measurement. You've got your transmitter available as well, and a cleaning, ultrasonic cleaning solution. Another great example, this is used pretty commonly on the effluent of wastewater treatment plants. We have a combined panel to measure turbidity, free chlorine, and pH. Again, you can see how neat and compact this solution is. A single transmitter for all of your probes and only 2 assemblies, and all of your sampling ports are available here as well to do any calibrations you need. So those are just some of the standard solutions that we have supplied in Australia and that we are supplying this year as well. Then we've got some really cool customized solutions. I didn't know whether to include this portable CRP logging because it's more related to the food and beverage industry, but this goes to show some of the projects we've done for our customers in the past. So on the left-hand side, you'll see this portable cleaning process logging system. So we've got stainless steel fittings, swage lock fittings all over this, stainless steel assemblies, even cooling chambers as well to measure for a portable system for looking at pH, conductivity, and turbidity. On the right-hand side, this is still a panel solution. We've managed to fit a whole compact turbidity monitoring solution into a small case, even combined with a power supply and remote access unit as well. These are more common in Europe, where we've done lots of river quality monitoring projects. We actually supply all containerized solutions. So I showed you the picture of the shipping container before. Imagine dropping a small container on your site, nice air-conditioned environment, perfect for all of your probes, all of your parameters that you like to measure. We can supply those solutions. So in this particular case, we've got 2 flow meters, and we've got turbidity instrument, a sample pump, pH, ORP, conductivity transmitter, and even here we've got an ortho phosphate analyzer with some air cleaning arrangement below. We've also done these nice compact multi-parameter single assemblies. So in this case, we're measuring color, turbidity, pH, ORP, and nitrate, all in a single type assembly as well. So that's enough of the nice pictures that you've seen, but I'm going to show you now some real projects that we've done in the past. Just going to double check the questions to make sure the sound's good. Cool. So this is a massive project we're currently doing in Denmark. So I mentioned before, it's very easy to spec your panels for small projects or large projects. In this particular project, they had 164 standardized panels that we developed for the customer in 6 different configurations. Those consisted of multi-parameter type installations you see on the left, single parameter measurement stations, all with automatic cleaning, automatic sampling, as well as remote access to dashboard cloud-based solutions that the customer wanted to send their data. You can see all of them here. You can see there's the trough where all of the drain is going for each of these installations. Again, on the right-hand side, there's more. And you'll see on the right-hand side, if there are parameters that we can't cover, we can also install some other vendors' instruments onto our panels. It's very, very easy for us to do as well. Here's a nice project from the Middle East. And this is an example if you've got lots and lots of money in your project. You can see on the right-hand side, everything sways like tubing, sway lock valves. We've got electromagnetic flow meters installed, temperature instruments. We supplied masses of these panels over this particular project. It was a big reservoir upgrade. We supplied 96 panels with only 2 parameters, then 38 panels with 7 parameters. I mentioned before that this project, they had quite a bit to spend. They've got individual transmitters for each of their parameters there. That's what the customer requested. That's what we provided. This is a nice sort of idea of the premium solutions we can develop. Here's a local one we've recently or are currently delivering here in Australia. This was for an industrial water treatment plant. In this particular project, we supplied 8 low turbidity panels, another 8 high turbidity panels, and the remainder of which were pH ORP. So again, a really nice local examples, and goes to show the kind of quantities we can supply in your projects. Here's another neat one. I really like this one because it shows how well we worked with the customer. So we went from design, so in this case, they wanted to monitor total free chlorine across a number of fairly remote sites. So you can see in this one, we've got the transmitter, we've got the inlet, we've got a pressure reducing valve, we've got the free chlorine cell below, total chlorine cell above. They have a sampling port to perform calibrations. So this is how we configured the design, and all of these documents were supplied to the customer and then to delivery. So this is how it turned up in a single crate, everything pre-mounted, ready to go. The only thing the customer had to do was take the probes out of this box, install them into the assemblies, plug the inlet, outlet, comms and power, and that's it, you're ready to go. So no longer are we having 6, 7 boxes of instruments, probes, cables. We've got one single container with everything in there. You can imagine how much that can benefit some of your larger projects. Now, just to finish with, I wanted to show you one of the really cool new assemblies that I just got the demo from on Monday. So it's rare that I get excited about assemblies for pros, but this one's very, very cool, and it kind of builds on the modular concept of the panels that I described before. So we can now offer up to 8 different parameters into a single measurement cell. So again, that's really going to reduce the footprint of some of your panel installations, and these are great, and they're easy to pull apart and connect together pretty much like a jigsaw. We've even got a sampling port down the bottom. You've got an acid dosing port, excuse me. If your assemblies get empty, you've got a light indication status as well. If a probe breaks, if it flows too low. So very nice, neat little solution. Just to finish with, before we go to the questions, I'm going to try and share my screen. We also have an online configuration tool. So it's very, very easy for you to add all of your parameters, all of your environmental conditions, send that straight to us, and then from there we can actually design a panel, within a matter of days. I'm just going to show you exactly what that looks like here. So, Kassav, give me a thumbs up if you can see my page. Great. Okay. So this is what the online configuration tool looks like. So you can enter all of your application details. Let's say we're a wastewater effluent. You can select the parameters you want to monitor. Let's say pH, free chlorine, maybe DO. Let's look at nitrate and ammonium. You can list any additional parameters. So let's say our flow equals 30 litres per hour. Pressure equals 100 kPa gauge. Enter your name, Luke Turner, enter your email address, phone number, click confirm or submit. This gets sent straight to us, or actually gets sent straight to Kassav, and then we can work with you straight away on building your panel solutions. So it's a nice, neat tool to be able to configure some of your panels online. So I'm just going to flick back to the main screen. Brilliant, guys and girls, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to some of the benefits and some of the case studies we have with our analytical panel solutions. Now I'm going to bring Kassav back in, and he's going to answer some of your questions. So if you do have any questions, go to the dashboard on the right-hand side and click on that and enter your questions there. Cool.
Good timing. Good.
Yeah, Kassav, I can hear you. So Kassav, we've got a question here. It's regarding, I think we might have answered it before, is whether or not you can incorporate third-party instruments into these panel solutions. So if we don't cover the full range, can they be installed?
Yeah, that's right. So we can install and give it as a complete solution. Like, for example, if you have an effluent monitoring, where you have some parameters which ENH don't have it in the scope of supply, we can integrate or buy and integrate third-party instruments into the complete solution and give it as one package to customers.
Great. Okay. We've got a question here from Niels. This is a great question. It's one we probably get asked very commonly. Is what are the typical delivery times for a complete panel Kassav?
Yeah. So it depends how complex is the panel. If a customer is requesting for a standard panel, it'll be done in 6 to 8 weeks, and yeah, it'll be delivered on site within 10 weeks.
Brilliant. Okay.
Hello, Stephen.
Documentation, I think it's from a project manager probably. What kind of documentation is supplied with these delivered panel solutions?
Yeah, we can provide standard documentations like the operating instruction with drawings and all the third-party supplied equipment documentations as well. Apart from that, if customer requests for any special documentation, that can also be included in it.
Yeah, okay. I think a key point, I briefly mentioned it before, is that, even if you lose that documentation to your panels, don't worry about it. The serial number with your email address, you can log on to our website, enter the details, and then you can instantly download all of that documentation. So we'll give you a hard copy, but nowadays we're moving mostly over to digital type copies as well, so you can easily download those there. Kassav, it's probably for you, Anthony. We've got a question here from Andrea regarding DOC measurements. So do we have a solution that can surrogate or that can infer DOC, which I believe is dissolved organic carbon, if I'm not wrong?
Yep, we do optical type DOC sensor, which put together like it's an SAC basically, which is a spectral absorption coefficient sensor. Based on the inference factor, like we can give a DOC output as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Question here from Ian, who's asking, what are the ranges for turbidity monitoring? So I guess, what is the low range of turbidity we can do?
Yeah. You mean the ranges of turbidity in the sense like for low range, we can go from 0 to 10 NTU. We can go as low as 0.01, I believe. I might have to.
I think it's
sure
0.0015. I think is the lowest.
Yeah, and we can go up to 4,000 NTU.
Yeah. Question here from Daniel. Electrically, I assume the termination point is in the transmitter. So, yes. I think he's asking exactly where the cables are terminated.
Yeah, we can provide a pre-terminated plugs as well, but it depends on the country as well, because most of these panels are made in Germany, and it comes with a European plug. So generally, it is being changed in the on-site.
Yeah, and Daniel, when we send you the slides, there are a couple of examples where you can see the junction boxes pre-mounted, pre-installed on these panels. We can do that. It really depends on the application. Another question here is, do you have a standard technical specification in editable format to assist procurement? So I think this in some cases, Kasav, projects, particularly during the quoting stage, they require standard text to put into their project documentation. Can we offer that with these panel solutions?
Panels are generally customized, so if there is any standard panel that requires these kind of documentation, we can prepare it and give it. But as of now, we have not done this.
Yeah, and Damon, we are working on single part numbers for these panels as well. So you don't have to order one part number for a panel and then 6 or 7 part numbers for your cables, your assemblies, your transmitters. We are working towards incorporating that into single numbers so they'll be easy to spec for your small projects and for your big projects too. What's the range? So a question from Manfred here. What range of COD can you measure, and is there an upper limit? I'd have to double check that, Manfred. I can get back to you after this presentation. It really depends on the type of analyzer that we offer, whether it's an optical type analyzer where you can infer COD, or whether it's a wet chemistry analyzer. It depends on the application and the type of analyzer you like as well. But we'll get back to you after this as well. Cool. Got time for a little more questions. Kasav, got a question here about remote connectivity. So what are the options about remote connectivity for these panel solutions? Yes,
we do have installations which are pretty remote, like for example, distribution lines and for disinfection monitoring in remote locations, where we have supplied along with a remote access unit, as well as we can also supply it with when there is a power requirement as well, we can supply with solar panels for powering the instruments as well. So we can give it as a complete solution.
Yeah, I think those kind of applications are becoming more and more common in Australia. I mean, we're such a vast country. Many of the areas you want to monitor water quality, as Kasav mentioned, disinfection, you don't have access to power, you don't have access to comms, you're going to have to send everything remotely. So we are seeing those types of solutions become more and more common. I think we've answered most questions, unless you can think of any more, Kasav, or you can see any more in the chat.
No,
brilliant.
We have answered most of the questions.
We've done most. Great. Well, thanks so much for those of you who stayed. We've still got loads of you in the chat room, which is great to see. On that QR code you'll see on the screen, if you scan that on your phone, you'll be able to download the brochure where there are lots of these standard panel solutions. Tomorrow, I believe, tomorrow morning, we'll send you an email where you can download a recording to this presentation, the presentation slides, and the selection brochure as well. With that, we're going to end. Kasav, thank you so much for the technical support at the end, and have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.